Aid, go get me. I printed off a sheet. Will you go get me that sheet I printed off? Go get me a sheet off the printer, please. No, wait, no, Kristi. Uh huh. Okay. Okay. Let's see. She said it wouldn't let her in. Let me try again. Um. Oh. How about exactly what I told you? How about Steve said he did one for Finkler? He said he did it like Monday. Um. Yeah. Remember you're trying to get me to get it. He said he did one. Mhm. Mhm. Okay. All right. And that worked. Ah,
Move over a little.
all right. And unfortunately, I'm already live because I scheduled it. This is
Oh.
so funny. Hi, guys. So clearly, today was an interesting time for me, guys. Thank you guys for coming on. I had a city council meeting at 12 that they promised me I'd be over at 12:30. We had technical difficulties at the beginning of that, and so we didn't get on there until probably 10 after 12. And so then we went up till about 1:03. And so I'm just getting off a city council meeting. So thank you guys for tuning in. And I'm so sorry for the for the delay. And then I'm so sorry for my guest because I was not on, she couldn't get on. And so anyway, but now we're here. So that's fun. Hey, Kristi.
Hi.
Well, the good part is that so Kristi is my neighbor. Kristi lives two doors down from me, and as we were texting, and I was telling her I'd be late. I heard the trash truck, but she was telling me, "Well, hopefully the trash truck will be gone because it's right outside my window." So at least the trash truck is now gone, so we don't have that sound.
Yes.
So anyway, how are you?
Doing well, hanging in there. Yeah, yeah.
Good, good. So I've got my earbuds on so I don't have to talk as loud because my baby is asleep. And my husband came up and was like, "God, bring it down." It's so hard to get a 3-year-old to take a nap at not nap time when school is
I
out.
don't think mine even napped anymore at 3. It was just too much, especially as the younger ones came along. The older ones were so loud, and it just never worked.
Yeah. So it's, that's been interesting working from home and them being home, trying to keep a schedule, which I've shared with the folks who watch a little bit, but also like I never know when he's going to make it down. And finally he made it down. So I have these meetings. My husband's like, keep it down. Don't wake him up. But guys, anyway, hi everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Community Conversations with Councilwoman Tameika Isaac Divine. I am Councilwoman Tameika Isaac Divine. who is fresh off of a city council meeting. But I told them when we scheduled the meeting, I said, y'all already have a 1 o'clock, so I gotta get off in time because I've been hosting these conversations and they have been so enlightening, so much fun. And thank you guys who have been watching because I've gotten a lot of folks who have not been able to watch live, but they watched the replay and they're like, thank you for having these conversations. I learned something new. It was great. And so thank you for watching and tuning in and helping us this week celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week. I've tried to bring you guests all week who can speak to that, and I've been super excited about this guest because it actually, if you recall, Kristi, so like I mentioned before, Kristi Schrader is a neighbor and a friend, but she's also an educator. I started to put former educator, but once you're an educator, you're always an educator. So she is an educator who is on break right now because she has kids at home. So she's also a parent and an advocate, community advocate for lots of things that she and I share in common that we're real passionate about. But one of which is certainly is education. So she has been working with SC for Ed, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But when I wanted to kind of talk to Kristi last week because Friday was May 1st and it was the 1 year anniversary of All Out May 1 that we did last year for SC for Ed, and I wanted to get her last week, and she's like, I'm working from home as well, and I gotta meet with my boss, so I can't meet with you. And it worked out actually perfectly because I forgot that this was Teacher Appreciation Week, and I was only going to have one person come on this week. And when she was like, I can't do it last week, I said, let me push you to next week. It worked out better because we're like, okay, let's continue to celebrate teachers. So I say all that to say as my welcome to you, my introduction for you, and my thank you and appreciation for all that you do for education here in South Carolina. But thank you, Kristi, and thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. Anytime I can have any kind of a platform to help spread the message of SE for Ed and what teachers need, I appreciate it so much.
Well, good. So since we are a little bit late, I'm going to jump in real quick. But those of you who have been watching this know when I look down, bear with me because what I'm also trying to do is share this on there it goes, share it on my personal page as well so we can get everybody watching. Um, and invite y'all share the broadcast, invite folks. And if we have time, we've got some previously submitted questions, but if we have time, we'll answer any questions. So type them in the chat box and Kristi will get to it. But first, I just really wanted to start off and ask you, how are you doing? I mean, people always ask me, but you're like me. I mean, so you're a mom, and you've got young kids at home.
Yeah.
And all your kids are younger. Like I have one really young one, but you've got young kids at home. You've got, you're working as well. You're still doing all your advocacy. And I mentioned advocacy. I mean, you do SC for Ed, but you also do Sustainable Midlands. I know you're very passionate about income inequality, as I am. And so I know you're doing a whole lot in community. But we're operating, as we've been talking about all week, in a new normal. So it's a lot to do all that in social distance and everything else. So how are you and your family doing and adapting to our new normal?
So I think overall we're doing pretty well. We have our ups and downs. Sometimes it's minute by minute ups and downs. Sometimes, we have a really great day and then the next day, not so much. It's that cabin fever kind of thing that's happening. I have 4 kids. My oldest, Luke, he's a middle schooler, and I think he's missing his friends. They all miss their friends, but I think he's really missing that social aspect and getting to go to school and see everybody and all of that. I think it's harder for him, but he's doing well. He's, doing Zoom meetings with or I guess Zoom meetings. I don't know. He'll probably come out here and correct me. No, Mom, it's this kind of meeting. But yeah, so he's getting to see them, and so that's good. And the girls are all kind of hanging in there too. I've got 2 third graders and a kindergartner, and yeah, we're getting through. We're making the work for us and our schedule work for us. We started out trying to do everything exactly as it was written in the plans that came home from the teachers, and then thankfully they're amazing, just amazing. And they've all said, look, do what you can, do what you need to do to make it all work for you. And so we've been able to sort of streamline everything and still get in a lot of great academic stuff, but things that are working for us. So, for example, they've been really excited about planting seeds and growing their own garden this year. And so we've just made that all lessons, so.
Yeah, I will say so. And like I mentioned, Christy's a neighbor of mine, so our kids go to the same schools. And yeah, that's kind. And I've shared that before. It's the same thing. At the very beginning, I'm not very structured. My to-do lists. I've got a to-do list over here and to-do list over here. So I that's the way I run my life anyway. So at the beginning, I was like, okay, yeah, we got this down. We had a schedule, and then after a couple of weeks, it just really became hard. And so we have done the same thing, kind of make it work for us. And I love it because the teachers they're accommodating and they work and they know that we're working from home. And so they don't want to put extra stuff on us. And so like Jade, my fourth grader, her assignment the other day was, well, actually, I think it's every day this week, but one day it was planning a pool party. And it was so cool. So she loved that. But you had to have a budget and you had to figure out what were you going to buy for the pool party. And we had to research the cost of the things. So then she had to add it all up and figure out was she in budget, over budget. And then, I mean, it was just such a great assignment. And I have to, and I haven't reached out to her teacher yet, but I have to reach out and say, this was a wonderful assignment. And it was like, for her, it wasn't work, but, it was because she could check it off that I did this and it was part of my assignments. But it was such a real life experience thing. But it took into plan math and, the weather and, all the stuff. It was just really cool. So, yeah, so we've been doing those kind of things to make it work for us too.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of fun for me because I haven't planned a lot of lesson plans lately. In years, because I have been a stay-at-home mom for years, and I've been able to kind of get back to that. And we are we are getting baby chicks next week. And yeah, but get ready, neighbor. But we're eggs, so it'll be totally fine. But part of me has been like, is this a huge mistake to like bring in baby chicks? But it's been an amazing learning experience too. They've had the same thing. They've had to kind of start doing research on how do you raise baby chicks? What do you do when they're chickens, when they become adults? Research what we need to care for them and all of that. But then also they've been budgeting for, the food and the supplies that we need and building the coop and all of that kind of thing. So it's been really, really great. They've been able to write about it. They've been able to do math. They've been able, obviously, science. So they pulled all of that in, and we'll have some fresh eggs in 6 to 7 months when they start laying. So it's going to be fun.
Oh, I can't wait to see them. Hi, Gary Dennis. Gary Dennis is on, and he said those days everyone is having. My wife works in education, and teaching your own children is challenging, especially when you have kids. Talk about how much they miss their teachers and how much they love how their teachers taught them.
Well, I've always known I could not homeschool on a full-time basis. I think my kids need other kids their age. That's just them. One of my daughters, I think maybe would love it to homeschool, but she also says, but I would miss my friends. But no, I mean, I think I was a pretty good teacher when I was teaching. I know I was, but but yeah, teaching my own, I don't know. I don't think it would work out really well.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. So with that said, tell me, like, okay, so you've been out of classroom for a minute now.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part about being in the classroom?
I loved getting to know my students and building relationships with them. Just getting to know how hilarious they are, getting to know how creative they are. I loved seeing them grow whenever something, that light bulb moment with anything that we were doing would go off and just seeing their excitement. But yeah, just spending that time with them, it was just so joyful. It was great. So
yeah. And I think that's kind of how every teacher feels. I mean, almost every teacher, and I won't say almost every single teacher I've talked to during this time, that's been the hardest part, is not being able to see their students every day. And it doesn't matter what level. Like my three-year-old daycare, they did a drive-through parade and the school nutritionist did lunch. And so we drove through, and they were all out there with their balloons and all the stuff. And we drove through, picked up lunch, but they wanted to say hey to all the kids. And then, of course, for the other older ones that have the Zoom meetings and stuff. But every teacher I know, it's been missing the kids. And I mean, I've seen teachers who just kind of cried at the end of a Zoom meeting, like, okay. And, I think that for parents, that makes us feel so good, because it's like, wow, these people, they love our kids just as much as they do. And this is hard on all of us, but it gives you that whole thing as well, that, when you're sending your kids to school, you've got this professional educator who, at above all, loves your kids and wants to see them succeed and grow into great kids. So that's why I love Teacher Appreciation Week, and I love about that. So let's jump into kind of, because I really wanted you to talk, because I think you brings a lot of perspectives. You bring that parent, you bring that teacher, you bring the advocacy work you're doing in the community for SC for Ed, and the other things that are making our community better for our kids. Tell me, what are some of the biggest challenges you see with education in South Carolina?
And, I will speak from my perspective. I think when I was teaching, there was a lot of paperwork that had to be done and took away from my teaching. And I know that's still going on now, just from what I'm hearing from current teachers. They're saying, yeah, that paperwork is still there. There's a lot of testing. We over-test these kids. We really, really do. It's too much. It's too much. I know that I believe it was the month of January when they got back from the Christmas break. One of my kids' teachers told me that we will be basically doing testing and evaluations for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll get back to academics in February. And it just blows my mind that there's that much of the testing going on. And that's definitely gotten worse. Small class sizes. We need smaller class sizes right now. Class sizes are way too big. And, we're just talking about the relationships that you build with students. It's really hard to do that when you've got 30 little kids, in this tiny room. And it's hard to get to know them all and to really build the relationships like you should. And then that adds to the difficulties of reaching those kids where they are. If they're having any kind of difficulties academically, it's easier to figure that all out and to reach those kids and work with them if you have a smaller class size. So that's definitely a big concern. So the over-testing, the class sizes. Sorry, I made some notes earlier just to make sure that my mind goes blank sometimes in these things. I feel like we all love teachers until we don't. And there's this distrust sometimes of teachers that teachers experience. And I think a level of disrespect sometimes too. They're not respected and trusted the way they should be. Teachers should have a seat at the table whenever decisions are being made about education. So that's something that doesn't always happen. And when teachers speak up, there is a fear of retaliation. There's a fear of being the only one who's speaking. So that's definitely something that is really concerning. And teachers are not speaking up because they want something for themselves. They're speaking up because they want the best stuff for our kids. That they would put their careers on the line and fight for our kids is just amazing. And, so that's something we need to support them on.
Yeah. And I think that's the role that SC for Ed is filling and wants to fill. We're going to talk about that in a second, but just definitely a follow-up to the points that you made. Number one, about you talked about the smaller class size and the testing. So my guest Tuesday was Beth Branham, who is a school board member from Lexington too. She's also the immediate past president of the National School Boards Association. And so I asked her, there's been lots of silver linings or blessings that have come, unexpected blessings that have come out of the, coronavirus and where we are and, and everything else. I think certainly one of the things is that parents, even if you love and appreciate teachers, you have a deeper appreciation for teachers because you see all the things that they have to do. But I was asking her, one of my questions was, what do you see for the future of education, and are there any lessons learned out of what we've had to go through that may be kind of unexpected, positive changes that could come out of it? And the two that she mentioned was, having, it'll be based on the assessment when we get back, but because testing was suspended this year, she said there has been some talk as to looking at whether or not testing is the only way you can, evaluate how good kids are doing, and maybe we will see an end to some of that testing. And I thought that was really good
Yeah.
to hear her say that that's part of the conversation. And then, of course, because no matter what, we'll still have to be doing some social distancing at some level or another. Even if we, get a treatment, even if we get a vaccine, I think that there will be foreseeable future still a need for social distancing, which would probably cause class sizes to be smaller, which I think would be a good thing. But I think that will exacerbate the problem as another problem, which we may not get to today, but another problem. We know that there are so many teachers who are leaving the profession. So there's still a need for teachers. So I wonder if we'll be able to get to that smaller class size, because will we have the teachers that will be able to address it? But anyway, what do you think about that? Have you thought about kind of the changes that may happen in education based on what we've learned through COVID-19? And are those some things that you think might be coming down the pipeline?
Certainly. And that's one thing just across the board I've thought about the changes that hopefully will come, that people won't forget, the challenges that we've seen in all areas because of COVID-19. But yes, specifically to education, we didn't do the testing that they usually do in May. We're not doing that. And nothing really bad happens because of it. In my day of teaching, I could assess my students without a formal written test. I could assess my students just by building that relationship, getting to know them, observing what they were doing, keeping a portfolio of their work, things like that. And it was so much more natural. It was so much more personal and gave me such a better picture of my students than any formal bubble in assessment could have ever done. And I don't think that we need all of that testing because of that. I trust that the teachers know my kids. My kids' teachers know them very well without any of that testing. And I know that a lot of the tests that they take, the results don't come back in time for the teachers to use that information, or the information is just a number. And so the teachers aren't able to say, well, why did they make that score? What areas do I need to work on with them? They don't know. They don't get that information from these tests. It occurs to me that these tests really are just for the school report cards and things like that. They're not really there to help teachers and students in the classroom. So I think we need to trust teachers that they are doing evaluations every single day in their own way, and in a way that is way less stressful for our students. That was one thing that my third grade is a big year for testing. They're a little sad because their teacher is known to give them candy on test days. But I was like, I will give you candy. I mean, this is great that you don't have to do this test. They were very stressed the entire year. They would bring it up every once in a while throughout the whole year. Like, oh, we got that test at the end of the year and I'm so nervous about it. And the anxiety is real, and it's unnecessary. So I think that that'll be great if that is a change that we see. We don't need all of the state level testing. We don't need all of the district level testing. We don't need it. And then the smaller class sizes, I know that the challenge there is finding enough teachers to do the work, to come into the classroom, because we are losing teachers at a rapid rate every single year. But if we can see the changes that SC Fred, for example, would like to see, teachers will come back. I think that they will. It'll take time. It won't be easy. But if we can show teachers respect, if we can pay them a living wage, if we can give the students what they need so that the teachers aren't having to provide it themselves. I mean, I can't tell you how much money I used to spend on my own to buy things for my classroom that were necessary things we had to have to make the curriculum work. And I was having to pay for them. So if we can make a lot of these changes, teachers are going to want to teach. They're going to, and they already do, but we will get more teachers coming back. We will get more teachers staying, and we will get more kids going to college to become teachers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so funny because my husband talks about that all the time. And, he's a board member at Richland One, and he was like, when he talks to teachers, it's like they don't want to leave the classroom. I mean, there's actually some. He tells me all the time, like, because they're at the point right now where they're about to, I guess, approve contracts and promotions and stuff, and he tells me that there are so many teachers who don't want to leave the classroom. I mean, that you look at them, you see how amazing they are, and you know that they would be great for administration and other things. And so it's that balance, because we need those teachers who understand that part to be in administration and everything else. Mm-hmm. But you also need the teachers in the classroom. And he always says that's kind of, it's amazing, because when he talks to teachers, there's some that, could go so far, but they also love being in the classroom. And he talks about that, how it just would be great to have more folks, teachers in the classroom, and have them having the autonomy and the flexibility to do the things that they want to do administratively, but also keep that connection with the students. So anyway, I don't want us to lose time. So I really want to get into SC for Ed, because, I only know, and I know a small bit, but I only know about SC for Ed, because Jamie tells me about SC for Ed and you tell me about SC for Ed. But I think there are a lot of folks, parents, but also just the general public, that doesn't know who SC for Ed is. I mean, they remember seeing the red shirts at the State House. And even that, and you remember that because you and I talked about it, even that there were so many disinformation about what SC, All Out for May 1 was about. And so there were a lot of folks who were like frustrated. It was like, oh, okay, school's having to be canceled because, whatever. And so I think there's a lot of misinformation. So let's start at the beginning. I want you to be able to say, what is SC for Ed and why is it necessary? Why do we have SC for Ed? And what would you want people to know about what you guys are doing?
SC for Ed was started about almost 2 years ago by Lisa Ellis, who is on the board of SC for Ed with several other really amazing teachers. And forgive me, Lisa, if I get some of these details wrong. I believe she started a Facebook group just to kind of like get some ideas from other teachers, like, here's some problems. What can we do to solve them? We don't want to just sit here and complain. We want to figure out what we can do to solve them. And this group grew and grew and grew, and it's massive now. So it's a grassroots organization. It is made up of mostly teachers, and then folks like me who maybe are former teachers, or parents who obviously we have a stake in what's going on with education, and we want to support teachers. Community members are part of SC for Ed, but yes, it is majority teachers. They are all South Carolina teachers. That's one thing I've heard here and there, like, oh, you got out of state, agitators, making this SC for Ed group, but nope, we're all, I was born and raised here. I graduated from the local high school, I can show you my diploma, but yes, I'm a local former teacher, current parent, and that's basically who we are. But so what we're doing is we are looking at legislation, and we're trying to get a seat at the table so that we can have a say in what is happening with legislation. We're also trying to encourage people to go to board meetings, school board meetings, talk to teachers at your school and find out what they see any issues are, and help them with their advocacy. We're trying to empower teachers to speak up and to help us create change in education.
And I think the reason there's also misperception is because, there are other states that have teacher unions. Mm-hmm. We don't have a union, and SC for Ed is not a union, but it is an advocacy opportunity for us to have grassroots education and a diversity of voices speaking out in favor of public education.
Right.
And so I think people forget that too. I mean, they look at, like, I think around the same time that we did May 1, or I guess within the same year, there were the teacher strikes in other
Mhm.
areas, and people looked at it that way. But I feel like once, no matter what state, whether there's unionized or not, if you have a group of folks who have so much going on in their workplace that they feel a need to come out and say something, that's a reason for a lot of attention.
Right. And a lot of times we were hearing from legislators, like, I never heard this from teachers. I didn't know that these were the problems. We had no idea. And so that was really important too, that we get information out there that's, easily digested, I suppose you could say. Like, I personally have tried to read legislation, and it is very difficult to read. But it's
I'm a lawyer and a local legislator, and it's difficult for me to read.
right, right. So we try to we have some amazingly smart people in the group who read it and love to read it, and then they can help me understand it. So that's something that we want to do. We want to make sure that everyone is aware what's happening, not just on a state level, but more locally as well, and not only understand it, but understand how it's going to, what the impact is going to be on education and on teachers and on students. And if you're good with it, great. If you're not, then we want to give you ways to speak up about it. Can't always have a May 1st rally every time, every week. And while that was amazing, there's a lot of work to be done every other day too. So that's what we want to help people understand, what kinds of things they can do to spread the word and to help us make changes for our students.
So let's talk a little bit about, May 1, 2019, amazing, tremendous turnout at the South Carolina State House. And I do think it brought the attention of legislators. So I'll share, I had my middle child, because my oldest was actually, her school had a trip, so she was not here. But they were gone. I guess Luke will do that, not next year, but the year after. Yeah, they go camping, which was an amazing trip for them, but they were gone. So my little one, who was in third grade at the time, she was out of school, and I took her with me. We went down there to support the cause. But because I know legislators and stuff, we actually had an opportunity to make it educational as well. So I took her inside the State House so she could meet her legislators and watch the session a little bit. But it was funny because being on the inside, being on the outside for a little bit, then going on the inside and then coming back out, being on the inside, the legislators themselves were like, what? Oh my gosh, look at the crowd. And they were stunned as well. But they were coming out and listening. And I thought that was really, really good. So I definitely think it did what it was supposed to do and get the attention of our legislators. Now, I do know that, but there hasn't been the changes that you guys have been advocating for made as to now. Can you tell us, kind of bring us up to speed, what things have happened out of May 1st of 2019 that have been positive, and you see moving forward, and then what things still need to be done?
Well, I think one of the biggest positive impacts of May 1st was that teachers, whether they were able to make it that day or not, they saw that they are not alone and that they can use their voices and their vote to make some changes. To me, that's huge. If we reached even just one person in that way, which I know we reached way more than that, that's amazing. Because when I was first teaching a long time ago, I felt alone, absolutely alone. And when I did speak up, I was told by my administrator at the time that it was just me, that I just couldn't hack it. I wasn't maybe made to be a teacher. And I thought that was ridiculous, but I was the only one speaking up. So I thought, well, maybe, I don't know, and now teachers know they're not alone in South Carolina. They know that that their concerns are valid and that they have other teachers that are there for them and that will stand with them. So that's amazing and great. And yeah, I think we really got the attention of legislators. Whether they agree with us or not, they know we're not going away. So they do have to listen to us, and hopefully we can move things, in the right direction. I know there have been some positive things that have happened. I know the most recent bill, S419, was moving through the Senate before all of the coronavirus things happened, and they were actually making some changes in the bill. Small changes, not anything really huge, but there were some changes that were in the positive direction. So I mean, I think we're getting somewhere in that way, but I think we're also building our support with parents and community and things like that too. So we'll see.
So before coronavirus, there that we keep talking about May 1, that was 2019. So there was, before all this happened, there was a plan, and I guess a feeling that there was a need to do another day this year. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Correct.
Okay. And because of everything that happened, we weren't able to have it. But I think we've all learned to adjust and figure out how do we
Mhm.
do things virtually. And like you just mentioned, all out for May 1 was one thing, but there's so many things that can be done throughout the year. What else is being planned, and how can we, since there wasn't an ability to do a physical day at the State House this year, what are some things that are being planned and some ways that people can continue to support SC for Ed during this time?
So right now, all of the we have area reps. I'm one for the parent and friend group, and we have representatives all throughout the state, and then the board members as well. We're all working towards um, doing a virtual question and answer session. Right now, we're focusing on the House and Senate candidates that will be in the primary. We're focusing on them right now just because we need to get that information out there. So they are being invited to participate in like a virtual question and answer session with SE for Ed moderators. And those will be put out on the SE for Ed YouTube channel. And folks can then watch and see what their representatives and senators and potentially, the candidates that are running, what they are saying about education. And hopefully that will help them make a decision about who they will vote for. Other
Is
things
that
that
happening now, or is there a date for that?
so they are doing the sessions now, and then they will be uploading them. I'm not sure exactly when. I think near the end of May, so definitely before the primary. But yeah, so we want that information out there before the primary so that folks can make decisions for the primary election. And then I assume that we will continue to do that if they, if those are successful and we're able to do more. We'll do more before November for the general election as well. And then that way people have, like I said, information about where folks stand on education. Um, we really encourage people to, if you are on Facebook, join one of the SC for Ed pages. If you're a teacher, there's a page for your area or a group for your area. You can join the main group as well. And if you're a parent or a community member, you can join the parent and friend page. And we are putting out information constantly about what's going on with legislation, what's going on locally, and things that folks can do. One of the things I recommend is get the SC Legislature app. And if you don't want to get that app, you can always go to SC State House, is that it? scstatehouse.gov, and you can find who your legislators are. You can get their contact information. You can call them. You can write to them. You can visit them at the State House when we're back able to visit each other. And you can let them know what concerns you have and what's important to you with education. I also encourage people to go to scvotes.org, check your ballot, see who's on it. You can make sure that you are registered, that your registration is still current. You can check where you vote. You can look at your ballot, and you can generally learn information about the candidates there as well. So those are two sources that I love. I have that SC Legislature app, and I can follow my representative and my senator and see what bills and things that they're sponsoring and what they're involved in. And I can watch meetings from the state house when they're having meetings. They live stream a lot of those meetings. So that's really great. When we open back up, if you want to come out to the state house and go to some of those education meetings, it's really great to see people in their red shirts in those meetings, listening and letting our legislators know that we are watching, we're listening, and we're paying attention. So those are all great things that I like to encourage people to do. So yeah, call, email, write letters. They love a good letter. Write a letter to the editor for the newspaper. That's a really great thing that folks can do. And almost all of these things you can do from home. So I tweet at my legislators very often and tag them. So yeah, maybe they see that too. I don't know, but yeah, there's lots to do.
So what would you say? Because I get this a lot when I tell people like the same thing. Like I speak and I'll say, make sure you're, speaking out, contacting your elected official, da 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 da. And people say, well, I'm not political. I don't do that. What do you say to people like that who would say that or feel like, well, I support you and I support what you're doing, but I really don't know what to say to my legislator. Is there a resource at SC4Ed for folks who don't know what to say to a legislator, or what? How would you encourage people who say, "I'm not political. I don't do that"? What would you say to them?
I would ask. So when people say that they're not political and they don't, usually get involved, I wasn't either for a really long time. And these last several years, not only have I had more time to be political, but I have also found it extremely important to get involved. But it's not for everybody. I understand that. So don't do it every day, but maybe join the parent and friend group. And when something big is happening that we need your support on, do a quick little email, do a quick little, something or one thing that I did at the beginning of this was I went and talked to the teachers at my kids' schools, and I asked them, where you are right now, what do you need? Do you need me to go and talk to the principal and see if he is supportive of SC4Ed and what they're working towards? Is he supportive? And maybe I could call the superintendent, or maybe talk to someone on the school board, or maybe go to those meetings. So I spoke with them first to make sure to see what they needed. So maybe just on a level like that, people who aren't super political might at least say, you know what, yeah, I'll go talk to my teachers, my kids' teachers. That'd be great, But it is important. I don't know. I would encourage anyone who says that to just give it a little try. See what you think, because like I said, I wasn't very political, and now I am. you dip your toe in, and it's hard to,
you get the bug.
And yeah, you do. You start to pay attention, and then it's kind of hard to not pay attention anymore and to not notice, like, whoa, these things are really important. And one thing that I have learned over the last 4 or 5 years is I used to think that voting for president was like one of the most important things I could do. And now I have realized that it is so much more important that I pay attention to everything locally, because that's affecting my life every single day. So,
amen.
Yes. So,
Amen. Because we do that all the time. Again, Jamie and I talk about this all the time. It's concerning. So he's run 3 times now, and he's on the presidential race, and so there are a lot of folks who will go and they'll vote straight party, but school district is nonpartisan, and so you can do straight party, but then you have to go and vote for your school board member. And it's interesting because we look at the numbers and that kind of stuff, and it's called drop off. Or sometimes you look at who gets retained. You have so many folks who will do the straight party, and then they just completely don't even vote for their school board.
Yeah.
And it's disheartening, because whether you have children in the school district or not, our education system affects us all. And we all have to make sure that we are engaged in, the resources that our teachers have, the policy that's being made to educate our students, how we're keeping up with educating our students. I mean, just this thing, and I said this I think yesterday or the day before, but I saw someone on CNN, a reporter, say that the thing about the coronavirus has taught us is the great equalizer. It doesn't care who you are as far as how you can get it, but it's also the great magnifier because it has magnified the things in our community, racial health disparities, rural versus urban, all the stuff. But especially when you look at how we've been able to educate our students, you have students, I mean, everywhere, and we have it here, where, that buses are having to be sent out to areas because kids are asked to e-learn, but they don't have access to the resources they need to learn. And so I just think education is the best place that we all have got to be involved. So local is so right. I want to point out, I'm not forgetting you guys. So let me say hi and thank y'all for tuning in. Crystal Green is saying great information. Natalie Brown says greetings and thanks for hosting this live show about education. Thank you, Natalie, for what you do. Kendra says being not political isn't a character trait, it's a privilege. Yes, and we have got to. And then Kendra also says if you're not political, you can talk to your area rep about what to say in your letter, email, conversations. That is it. I mean, if y'all are watching, and those of you who are watching on the replay, still you can give me some comments. But if you don't come out of anything from this, listening to this live stream, go join. I mean, you're already on Facebook if you're watching this. So go join the SC for Ed group. And I think I like the general page, but I mean, just hearing Kristi talk, I'm going to go back and check and see if I'm part of the parent and friends group, because I don't know if I am or not. And if I'm not, then I'm going to do that. And so make sure that you do that. Kendra says your community is only as good as your schools, which is true. Now, this is off subject, but I love your braids. Thank you. This is my COVID-19 hairstyle. I don't care if the governor's going to open up. I'm social distancing and I'm not going into a salon as much as I love my hairstylist. So this is my new COVID-19 hairstyle. So until I feel like it's safe, I'm doing protective style, so I don't have to worry about the hair.
I had a cute, like really short pixie cut, and it's growing out kind of. It's not too bad right now, but oh my goodness, some days it's big.
Well, it's funny because my hubby and my son need a haircut right now, and I'm trying to convince him to let me learn how to use some clippers, but he's like, "No, I will just let my gray show and let it go out." But it's wonderful. Okay, so before we end, we are down to the last wire. This has been a great education, a great thing. We might have to do a part 2, Kristi. But I did want to ask, for we talked about what people can do. Also, it was something you said early on, and I wanted to go back to it because I also want to make sure that people understand. I think that part of that, you talked about the distrust and different things. Part of it with along all lines, and you and I've talked about this about other issues, but I think there's so much distrust and because people don't talk to each other, and so I think from the community aspect, parents and teachers, folks who aren't parents, but you have a vested interest in our education system. What are the things that you feel, as a timed out teacher and now and a parent, what are the things that you feel like just still people don't know and understand about teachers and about education? If you had to say 2 or 3 things that you wish people would understand about, teachers or our education system, what is that? What would that be?
Teachers never, ever, ever got into teaching thinking they were going to be rich from it. They're not in it for the money, but they do still need to eat and pay their bills and pay for their student loans. And, if they want to have families and things like that, teachers with master's degrees and doctorates and all that sort of thing, they are still having to have second and third job. That's not okay. So I that's a big thing that a lot of teachers don't want to talk about the money because then people are like, oh, you just want more money. It's like, well, they just want to live. They just want to be able. I mean, when I was teaching, I was married, so my husband had an income as well. I still had to work at least one extra job, sometimes two, just to make ends meet and pay bills. So, teachers are not asking for more money because they are greedy. They are not. They are asking for more money so that they can survive. And if they're not having to work the second and third jobs, then that means they are able to focus more on the job of teaching, which is so important. So I would say there's that. I would say that South Carolina, I know we're always really low, number 48, 49, in education across the nation. We have so many great things going on in our schools. And most of that is because of the love of these teachers that they show to their students. We have a lot of work to do, though. And, you said it, and we've talked about inequity. That's a huge thing. That's a huge bit of it. We have a lot of things to work on in that way. So I would say those things that just, we need to trust these teachers. There's no ulterior motive. There's nothing that they're asking for that's just greed or something for themselves. They want so much for these kids to succeed, all of them, not just some of them, all of them, no matter what their zip code is. They want so much for these kids. They care about these kids like we do, like we care about our own children. I mean, they are those kids are theirs too. So we need to listen to them. I think that's the biggest thing.
Good. And then my very last question for you, and then we might have to schedule part 2, but my very last question for you, since it is Teacher Appreciation Week, what would you say that folks can do today to show appreciation to their teachers, their children's teachers, their former teachers? I told my mom, I had her looking through my scrapbook to see if she could find a picture of a couple of my favorite teachers, and I'm gonna try and reach out to them this week too. But I mean, what would you say to somebody that they can do today to show appreciation to someone in the teaching profession?
Certainly. I love a good gift card, a good, something like that, a good shout out on Facebook or wherever you can find them, a letter, something like that. But the biggest thing, make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure you get yourself informed about the candidates and really pay attention to their voting records. You can find that on the SC Legislature app as well. Look at what they're doing, not necessarily what they're saying, and go vote. Make a commitment to do that. That would be huge.
That is great. And that's the perfect way to end. Yes. This is election year. Yeah, we have, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I think I did on something I did yesterday. I have so many meetings in the day. I don't remember if I did this on a live or not. But okay, so June, we still have primaries coming up in less than a month. Coronavirus will still be around some way, Ray. I know Richland County, I think all election commissions are making provisions for people to vote in person with social distancing and all that other stuff. But if you are eligible to vote absentee ballots are available now. So go ahead now and get your absentee ballot, request it so you can go ahead and vote, because there is a primary in June. And then, of course, there's a general election in November. Part of the general election, we'll be voting for a president, who is the person who appoints our Secretary of Education. We talked about the testing before. That's the people who will take care of, decide if we learn a real lesson from COVID-19 and notice that we don't need as much testing as these children are going through. So that's my little high horse on that. But all the way from president, all the way, I hate to say down, but like it's not important, but down ballot, meaning down on the list. But not down in importance to your school board members. So school board members will be elected this year as well. So make sure you register to vote, make sure you vote, make sure you educate yourself about the candidates, and then make sure you get involved in the issues. And at last but not least, make sure you support SC for Ed, whether you have kids in the schools or not. You need to be part of it. Natalie, I love your comments, and girl, you and I need to get together, because you probably need to be a guest on here. Natalie says parental involvement is always needed. So yeah, I think parents are realizing that now. We got to get involved, and we got to be part of the solution. And I think, and that's probably a discussion the next time too, Kristi, is, I know I hear sometimes from parents. I think sometimes, especially when you have lower wealth parents,
Mhm.
parents who may not feel very comfortable in an educational setting, part of the parental involvement isn't necessarily that they don't want to be involved, but could be that they have 2 and 3 jobs too, so they don't necessarily have the time to get involved, or it could be that they have some resistance to get involved because they don't feel comfortable. And so I think that's a discussion for next time as well. Like, how do we work together as a community? And actually, that's going to be part of our discussion. That's a perfect segue. That'll be part of our discussion tomorrow as well. So tomorrow at 1 o'clock, my community conversation is with Regina Brown, who is no, Regina Williams, who is also an educator and a parent and a community advocate. And her big thing is, how do we get the community as a whole involved in supporting teachers? And so I'm looking forward to having that conversation, because Regina's always really good on that. But with that said, I can't thank you enough, Kristi, for being a part of this while you're schooling 4 kids at home, and you're working and everything, and taking the time out to be here, and being a great voice and advocate for SC for Ed. So I know I am going to, as soon as we get off, go check and make sure that I'm supporting SC for Ed, and figuring out how I can get more involved as well, because it means a lot, not just as a community advocate to me, but as a parent of kids. I got a 3-year-old, so I'm going to be involved in the education system for a really, really long time. So anyway, for those of you watching, thank you guys for tuning in. Natalie, Gary, Inga, Crystal, everybody who's been involved. I think Kendra, everybody who was involved in commenting. Thank y'all for being a part of this live discussion. Hey, China, thanks for China is, and China probably will remind everybody. Another thing you guys can do is do your census. If you have not participated in the census yet, do your census. That is resources that go to education. So we need that information. So do your census. But anyway, and those of you who have been watching, share this broadcast so other folks can hear all the great information that Kristi gave us. But again, thank you, Kristi, for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I appreciate all of you watching. Tune in tomorrow at 1 o'clock when we talk to Regina. And then I'm going to keep the community conversations going. If y'all got some other topics you want me to address, inbox me or go to my page and say, hey, Tameika, I'd love to do this. And I'll bring you more conversations. Actually, China, I laugh. I just thought about this. China, you started this. She asked me to do a thing on the census 3 weeks ago. And that was my very first, it wasn't even called Community Conversations. It was just a Facebook Live. And after I did that one, I figure I'm home. Let's have some more conversations. So that's how Community Conversations was born. And now I've done one every single day this week. So anyway, so for those of you watching, thank you very much. Continue to stay safe, social distance, wash your hands, wear your mask if you do have to go out. And if you don't have to go out, stay home. If not for you, for other folks in our community, because we've all got to do our part to stay safe. So until next time, God bless, stay safe, and love you guys. Bye.